another outfit that may or may not be a VTuber, but let me see show of hands. Who here knows what a VTuber is? Oh, okay. I guess you guys don't need me. Bye. Okay. But in all seriousness, hello. So I have been VTubing for about a year and a half now. I've known of VTubers well before then, but I kind of started doing it myself. Yeah, about a year and a half ago. It's been quite a journey, and I found that often a lot of people don't actually know what VTubers are. So this is kind of like a fun panel to kind of explain for those who don't know or have wanted to know a little bit more about it. So if you have any questions, feel free to come up to the mic and ask them. You can do that at any point, by the way. Like if I'm in the middle of talking about something, that's fine. Just don't tell me to shut up, okay? Please, I'll be very sad. um, but yeah, so as I said, my name is Jezebel. A lot of people say Belle just because it's a little bit easier. I tend to stream on Twitch, and I play like a lot of video games. Every now and then, like very rarely, I'll do art or I'll like sit and do like working streams where I'm doing like video editing stuff like that. But the term VTuber is actually based off of a term that was coined. God, it's been a while now, but there was probably the first VTuber is a VTuber by the name Kizuna I, and it's short for virtual YouTuber. So it's actually based around YouTube, but because the tube part. But most people tend to use it anyway. So even if you're not on YouTube, so for example, I use it, but there's other people who use different terms. So they might say V streamer, V zinger, or V liver, and it's kind of most people do go VTuber, but it's also a bit based on your preferences. Some people prefer one or the other. Me personally, I actually do have a YouTube channel. I just don't live stream on it, so I just put like old VODs and highlights and clips and things like that. So it still technically counts, but yeah. So if you ever wondered why we're called VTubers, but we're not actually on the famous thank you Zane. But yeah, if you've ever wondered why you see the term VTuber, but they're not necessarily on YouTube, well, I guess that's kind of the answer why. There are a lot of VTubers that do stream on YouTube, though. There are some VTubers that stream on both YouTube and Twitch, and now also I've seen a lot of VTubers starting to stream on Bilibili as well. And obviously, there's like a couple of like small other places that people might stream on that aren't as well known, but generally Twitch and YouTube are the two big ones. So as you can see, I'm moving around. I am the more traditional style of VTuber that people tend to think of, but there's actually a bunch of different kinds of VTubers. So I am a 2D. My model is 2D, but I do have a 3D model. So I put this little graphic so you can see up on the far left. That's my 3D model. I was making a dumb meme. Don't mind me. And you can see there's like a screenshot of my model in my other outfit. There's also my very first model in the top right from when I first started streaming. Obviously, I look a little bit different since then. And you can also see I've put a PNG. So PNG is like another big thing where either you don't have a model yet or you've just started streaming and you don't want to be spending a lot of money because VTubing is expensive. And you can have a reactive, which is where you kind of can see how it's like it goes from light to dark, but some people just use a PNG. You might start out with a PNG, or maybe you're waiting for your model to be finished and you want to start, practicing how to do VTubing, how to do streaming, how to talk to people, things like that. And and the thing is, like, all versions of VTubers are valid. It doesn't matter if you are a say-so VTuber or an unsay-so VTuber. I'll explain that if you don't know what that is in a bit. Or if you're like a PNG, if you're a 3D, if you're 2D, it's all valid. Everyone is a VTuber that wants to be a VTuber, basically. There's like some rules that are considered for it, but it all depends on if you're doing it as more direct and like you're hard grinding to be the next famous person in the VTubing space versus if you're just doing it for fun, hang out with friends, meeting new people, that sort of thing. So, in that sense, you may have heard of, and I can see the gura that is in the panel. There's the term that tends to be corp corp tubers or corporate VTubers. So you have two camps. You have corporate VTubers, so VTubers that are within a company. They are working as kind of pork tubers. Say it, please. Um, they're working as employees, so they'll have a contract, things like that. Versus indie. So I myself am an indie VTuber. I'm not affiliated with any company. All of the pain that comes with VTubing is my own, as well as my empty wallet, both in both in paying for all my assets and also for gacha. But it'd be how it be. But here, I've got this little graphic. So I just grabbed a couple. There's so many at this point of like corporate groups that have official VTubers. So we have the classic Hololive, who have uh, technically they have 76 members today, but in about 8 hours they will have one less because one of them is actually graduating. And then we have, sorry, I feel like I have a feeling that some of you might know who Luxium are. Maybe, yeah. I see a couple hands. They are here later today. They'll actually be doing a Q&A, so make sure to go see that. It's going to be really good. I'm sure that it's going to be very, very exciting. It's their first time at a convention, so it's pretty big. Corporate VTubers are starting to show up at conventions more now as guests. I mean, myself included. I was actually a guest last year in December as well. So here at Animefest. And then I have so there's another group that I know of called Project Production Kawaii. So you have their members too, and then you also have in this particular picture I also included Vishojo. So the reason why I did this is there's a couple different things. So for Niji Sanji, so that's like Luxium, and then Hololive, they are and Production Kawaii, they're Japan-based companies. Like their main, like their parent company is based in Japan, but then they cater to an English or Western audience. So they have like branches, or um they have talent that are based not in Japan. So they have a lot of like all over the world. So you'll have different people like in America. There's a lot of Australians now. The Australians are taking over, and obviously other parts of Asia. V Shoujo is a little different though. So if you're not familiar with who V Shoujo are, the person who's one of the founders of V Shoujo, like the main guy, his name's the Gunrun. He actually was one of the co-founders of Twitch. So he actually ended up leaving Twitch and started Vishojo. And the way Vishojo works is, I just realized this mouse is not in that picture. The way Vishojo works is their talents retain all the rights to their models and things like that. So for like Niji Sanji, Production Kawaii, Hololive, those groups, they provide the model and they provide like resources, so you get like a manager and all that. But like the model and the branding and all that, that belongs to the company. But for Vista Shoujo, they actually do a thing where they say we will help you, and they take certain and from what I've heard, because obviously they're not going to give away all their trade secrets. From what I've heard is they don't take any money from the money that gets given to the talent on stream, but they will take money from things like merchandise sales or like collaboration sales for like so I know that there's like Good Smile company figures and things like that. So they're probably one of the few companies that do it a little bit differently. They say they're talent first. So they focus on the talents getting that attention and getting to keep their models, because like I said, models are very expensive. So if something happens, like for example, I mentioned graduation. So if you're not familiar with the term, it's used a lot in like idol groups, I think, as well. And you probably heard graduation from graduating high school or university or whatever. But in this context, graduation is where the VTuber is effectively leaving that space. So they may graduate because they're no longer being a VTuber. They may graduate because they're in one group and they may be going to another group. But yeah, the term is graduation, and you'll see that a lot. And you have to be really careful because I've seen some people talk about graduating school and people freaking out because they think the person's actually leaving, as the thing. So it's a difficult term, but it kind of gives the sentiment of never seeing, I guess, that same group of people again, which you kind of have in like school. When you leave high school, a lot of the time, depending on how your friend group is, I suppose, you don't necessarily see those people much anymore, if at all. So yeah, and in terms of Holy Life, so I mentioned one of them is actually graduating. So one of them, one of the Australian members, she is actually finishing up today. So there's a lot, especially on Twitter, you might see a lot of art going around at the moment to say farewell to her. It's very sad, but unfortunately, sometimes it happens. Like it's not just corporate VTubers, but indie VTubers all the time will graduate. They find that maybe VTubing wasn't quite for them, and or maybe they have to do it. They have to focus on school. They have to focus on work, so they end up not getting to be able to do that as much anymore. Because for some people, it is just a hobby. It's really interesting though. So I mentioned Holy Life has about 75, 76 members. Nijisanji has over 170. So they have a lot of people that they have on their talent roster. And then you have smaller groups like Vishojo and Production Kawaii who have between like 7 or 8. Some that only have like 3 or 4 because they're still smaller companies and things like that. But these are kind of like some of the big main groups that you'll see. I'm just gonna have a drink because talking a lot is making me thirsty. Now, in terms of indie VTubers, there are many. There's probably, like, I would say there's probably like thousands at this point. Every day I learn of a new indie, and a lot of them are really big. Like they're really big, and you may never have heard of them. So I did grab a couple of some. I would say some well-known faces, at least in my circles. Obviously, there's a lot more, and this isn't even like remotely getting everyone. But I just grabbed a couple of examples of some really well-known indie VTubers. So you have up there on the top left is Buff Pup, and you have below her is Girl DM. You have Shy Lily in the middle, and then up the top on the right, Vienna, and then the bottom left is Shoto. And as you can see, they're all very different. Like you can see, like Buff Pup is more like a fairy style VTuber. I know that they have a human model as well. You have like girls, boys, magical girls. You have whales. You can have. I've seen someone was a lamp. Their VTuber model was a lamp. So you can literally do whatever you want with it. But it just varies. Like this is just a couple that I could kind of give an example to see because you can do so much with VTubing that you just it's wild, especially because especially lately the technology has been getting a lot better. There was a piece of technology that was released that allows face tracking using motion capture software effectively, which was very different to the Face ID that a lot of for what I'm using right now, the software uses Face ID from the iPhone, and it just uses that. It doesn't have like the special like motion capture type stuff in the same way as this other application. So there's a lot going on. It's actually really interesting. But on that front, sorry, I've just got some icons here, so some logos. So I'm using VTube Studio because that's what my model was built for. Some people get it through PR Live, which is another free application. There's so many different ones nowadays. FaceRig is one that I started out with. So my first model, I was using FaceRig. And then as time went on and I got my new model and VTube Studio is VTube Studio has kind of ended up being the app for VTubers that are not in the corporate space because corporate VTubers tend to have their own specialized software. We assume we can't really tell for sure because we don't have access to it. But they have like their own environments, whereas VTube Studio, why is my model having a time? VTube Studio is like this one guy who got really interested in it and he started doing all this really cool stuff, and it ended up being that he quit his main job to really focus on putting his work into this. And it's just like it's such a program that's used across the board. Like so many people use it. For 3D models, So you have like Vroid. So Vroid's really good because Vroid's free and you can make models for free. So you can have a 3D model and use it however you want. Obviously, you can't sell merchandise, for example, with the model, but you can make a model. You can do all sorts of editing. If you come to one of my later panels, not today, it's quickly check. I don't remember times for anything. On Monday. If you come on Monday, I do actually have a panel where I'll be going in depth with some of the tools that get used for VTubing. So I'll be demonstrating like Vroid. I'll be showing off things like, let me show you. Where is my little goblin? Here he is. So my little chat burb here, because he can actually talk to people on stream. I'll be showing off things like there's an application that I use called TITS, which is the Twitch integrated throwing system where people can throw stuff at my model and it will make me go flying off the screen. So I'll be doing more like a tech demo. So if you're interested in that and you want to see more, come by on Monday so you'll get to see a little bit more in depth. This is a little bit more of what's the word? It is like 1 a.m. for me, so my brain's a bit tired. It's like more of an overview of like VTubing and kind of like the history and bits and pieces like that. But yeah, so with the way models get made, basically there'll be a particular piece of software that they're catered to because obviously different applications have different settings. And then from there you can use that, and there's like lots of different integrations. Like VTube Studio has a lot of API, a lot of special programming. So for example, when I do this, I can do this because there is a plugin that I can use with my Stream Deck that also allows me to do things like this. Because I have a plugin, because the plugin, it lets me key specific things without me having to actually go into the application, so I don't have to do things like go into here and then try and fiddle around with stuff. So there's a lot of really cool bits and pieces. There's another program that I didn't grab the icon for here just because I couldn't find it, just because I'm not as familiar with it. But I have seen recently, so a different 3D software called HyperX, and also Reality. I don't remember the spelling for them because, again, I only like saw them briefly. But I have seen some VTubers starting to use that as well. So it's like a kind of like different set of 3D, kind of more catering specifically to that anime style. Because Vroid, a lot of their presets, you have to edit them in certain ways to kind of get the aesthetic that you want. And then these ones were kind of like default based on that kind of style. Now, hardware. Did you know VTubing takes a lot out of your computer? It's actually very, very heavy on your computer because, like for me, for example, I may or may not be addicted to Apex. And Apex is kind of a heavy game, and trying to have my model up and playing Apex. Yes, really. Trying to have my model up, also having Apex up, having like stream going, having like all my like assets and all that sort of stuff. It takes a lot out of the system. So I've actually taken a photo to show you what my setup looks like. So I took this photo this morning. It's not the best because I was really tired, but you can kind of see I have a lot going on here. I built my computer from scratch. I'm a bit of a tech gremlin outside of doing my magical assistance work. So I built my computer and I've got like all my setup. And obviously this is far more than what everyone needs. But as time goes on, you might slowly gain stuff. So before this, so my current machine, it has like a 3070 in it. I actually started out with a 1070. As long as you're not planning to stream things like Apex, you can actually manage a lot of your work through just having like a more standard computer. You just have to make sure it's capable of streaming. But it is still very expensive. Like the mic I've got, this was quite expensive. It's like a professional microphone, and I have a XLR adapter to go with it. I also have a graphics tablet because I draw, but I had that before streaming, so that's nothing new. I did buy a new monitor that you can see, the vertical one, so that I can do things like social media easily whilst streaming. Like I can check things, like I can check like if there's anything happening on Twitter, or like if I forgot to post. I don't know about others who stream, but I'm very bad at remembering to post that I'm going live. I'll say, "Hey, I'm doing a stream in X hours," but then I actually forget to be like, "Hey, I'm live now." So having that up means that I have an easier chance to do that sort of thing. So as time goes on, you end up slowly collecting bits and pieces, but you do need to have a good amount of hardware, especially like if you're doing, say, for example, if you're doing like older games or indie games that don't require a lot, it is easier to do that more sort of chill thing. Yes, hello?
Hello?
Hello.
I want to ask you, how long exactly did it take you to build like your whole setup, like starting from scratch?
Oh, okay. So that's kind of, it's a little bit different because I built this computer. So I started out with a different machine, and then I about a year ago, I bought all the parts and I built the computer, and I already had my main monitor. And then over the last year-ish, I have purchased each piece as it's kind of gone along. So, for example, I bought like a cheap microphone. I think it was like a $70 microphone, and I bought that when I was starting the streaming. And then about 6 months ago, I was gifted this microphone by my chat. And then, like for example, my graphics tablet, I already had that because I always did drawing. I bought like the Steam Deck. It's hard. Sorry, Stream Deck. Steam Deck and Stream Deck are two different things. So I think altogether, it's taken me about a year and a half to get my current setup. But basically, I had the computer, my monitor, my tablet, and then obviously like keyboard and mouse and that sort of thing. But like I've had to buy for my own personal setup. I've had bought more stuff as time has gone on. There's things that I do want to upgrade, like I want to upgrade some parts of my computer, but that is expensive, and VTubing is expensive. So sometimes I have to wait for things. So but yes, in on the Twitch chat, so Zane is asking, did you mean or did you want to also ask about the VTuber model as well, or just the hardware? Because it's two different things. Because the rigging and stuff, so like getting me to move takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of money. So mm.
Making your whole 3D model and how to make it move and everything.
Okay, so the answer to that is a little bit different. So with the hardware, I could purchase and build stuff myself with my model. So I did not draw my model. My mama and papa, my artist and my rigger, were the ones who did all this for me. And this is actually not my original model. So I actually have a couple different models. So other than the very first one you saw, let me just grab it. I'll show you. So this is actually. Okay, hold on. Let me hide this so you can see a bit better. And I will zoom out. So this is one of my outfits. Oh, my head's been cut off. My feet are being cut off. Okay, hold on. Trying to wiggle between. Okay, there we go. So this is my full model. This was my second outfit for this style of model. So I actually had this outfit along with my original outfit, which was similar to the one you see in the OG model. That took about, I think it was about 4 months altogether. So it took about 2 months for the artist, and then took about 2 months for the rigger. I went with basically a VTubing group, so like an artist and rigger group who took a little bit of time to actually make all this. So it took a little bit longer because they were working on several different things at once. But then, the outfit that I was wearing, so this outfit, and then this hair. This is actually my anniversary outfit. So I got this done for my first anniversary year. Just something a little different, bit of a change. But I can combine them however I want. So I can do this. I can do this. I can do things like I can take off my coat if I can find. I moved all my buttons, so I don't remember how memorized where my buttons are anymore. I can take my coat off. I can take my bag off. I can have a deck of cards. And I can have some doves on my shoulders. And then obviously you have like all the facial expressions as well. Let me go here. Let me reset this so you can see better. Hello. And then I have like different. This is not as smooth as when I'm normally streaming because I have all my key bits and pieces in like one area specifically for Animefest. But for example, I have like and I also have things like this. So I actually have like redeems on my stream specifically where you can do things like, oh, I want to cuddle or I want to see a magic trick. So I can do things like this. And I can do like a magic trick for people. Or as you've seen, because I've been drinking a lot of water, I have like a drinking animation and things like that. And this is all stuff that I've paid for specifically for what I wanted for my model. And because of that, it took a bit of time to actually get it all put together. On top of that, it was also very expensive. Because like I've seen, so my model wasn't expensive as expensive as say like Shy Lily, or like Iron Mouse might be another name that you're familiar with. Like Iron Mouse has got there's a Australian VTuber who does a lot of really lovely models. Their name is Twin or Twin Tails, and she did Shy Lily's model. She's doing Iron Mouse's model, and I think those models are about 6,000 USD. Like I've seen like some be like 6,000 to 10,000 USD. Mine didn't cost that much, but because this is like professional grade, like everything is like absolutely perfect for them, and they can invest that kind of money. They kind of go all out. My model didn't quite cost that much, but I do have it still hurt my wallet a lot. Um, it's people say that VTubing is accessible, and it is to a point. But you do have to be able to do things like you have to be able to get some sort of art, because if you're not doing like if you're not having a model that moves like mine, you do have to have at least a piece of art so you can have PNG if you want to have something represent you. And you have to have a computer that can run something, because even the streaming software, like if a computer can't handle the streaming software, then you can't even go live. But that depends, because I mentioned Kizuna I earlier. She actually wasn't originally a streamer. She actually just recorded content and put it on YouTube like a standard YouTuber. So there's different ways to do it. There is still some money involved, but you may not necessarily need to buy anything for it. Like you might already, maybe you had like a character that you had art drawn of before that you can use. Like my design actually came from original design from about 13 years ago, and obviously that's changed and evolved as time has gone on. But I already had that beginning part to start from. So I guess the long way to say that is it's about 4 months, but it also depends because that was for one model, and some people it takes longer because there's like more things to do. So some models could take like a year, and especially right now in the community, because there's so many VTubers and there's like so much art going on and so much working going on. Some people it takes like a year to get their model, because depending on if it's like a single rigger who isn't as experienced, or they have to do a lot of stuff, it might take longer. So there's a lot that goes into it, and it could take a while. So you have to tend to plan ahead a lot to be able to make sure that if you have a specific date that you want to start streaming at with your model, that is already by then. Like some people, there's a VTuber that I know who had a lot of issues where their artist ghosted them, and they'd already paid for all their art, but then the artist didn't give them their model, so they then had to delay everything because they didn't have it. They couldn't give it to the rigger, and so on and so forth. In talking to that, so as I mentioned, like I've talked about artists and rigging. So to give you more context to that, if you're not too sure, Live 2D is what the name of the application that is used to make me move. There are other ones, so you have like VRoid, like I mentioned. A lot of people use, say, Blender for 3D, or they use like other different programs to make 3D models, and then you, depending on what's been chosen, you go through and you make you make everything work. So I can do things like, because different things do different things. If you are in the panel on Monday, I will actually bring out my 3D model, and I'll actually set up my hand tracking as well. I was too sleepy to set it up today to kind of do it. So since I'll be opening up a bunch of programs, I'm going to show it off tomorrow. Yes. So different things do different things. Correct. That is correct. Different software handles things differently. But like I mentioned, hearing me say mom and papa, so in the community there's kind of a it's kind of a thing where your parents are the people who quote unquote create your model. So you have, usually the mama is the artist and then the rigger is the papa. Obviously that doesn't necessarily correlate if like genders don't align with that, or someone might say, oh, my artist papa and my rigger papa, things like that. It's really flexible. So it's just kind of like a fun way to look at it. And what happens sometimes is, for example, you might have the same artist for your model as someone else. And then some people will be like, hey, so since we have the same artist, you're my sibling, you're my sister, or you're my brother. Do you want to do a collaboration together? Things like that. And it's like a fun way to meet others because you have something in common, right? Um, and you get the chance to actually do that. But no, it's not for everyone. Some people like it, some people don't. It's also for me, right? My siblings, I guess you could say. The artist that actually drew mine is actually a Chinese artist who doesn't speak a lot of English. So it's and as a result, and because of her market, a lot of her other children are also Chinese VTubers, and they stream on a different platform than me, and they don't necessarily like, they may not know English, and I know no Chinese. I'm I can barely speak Japanese sometimes, so, or English for that matter. But as a result, like, there's that language barrier and the barrier that like we don't really have the opportunity to meet. So, like for me, unfortunately, I probably won't get to meet the others, but a lot of groups do that. So they'll collaborate with the artist. The artist's children will collaborate together, which proves chaotic at times. But other than that, some other terminology you might hear, like I mentioned, graduation. In opposite to graduation, so I talked about starting streaming and how you have like starting with a model. What we say for that is usually for a debut, and that's where it depends. Like some people do debut, some don't. It's kind of a standard that people kind of expect at times, but some people don't do it, and some people will start streaming beforehand anyway. And it's generally recommended to start streaming beforehand, even with like a PNG, because you don't want to start streaming and you don't want to spend like say like $3,000 on like a model and background music and all that sort of fun stuff, and then no one knows that you're streaming, right? Because if you don't like get that social media out there beforehand, no one's gonna know. There's like 50 bajillion people streaming on Twitch. It is very hard to get discovered on Twitch. You need to diversify on different platforms so that people can find you. Like for example, for me on Twitch, I have a couple thousand followers, right? But on, say, TikTok, I have nearly 11,000 followers. And there are some that have like hundreds of thousands on TikTok, but they may not necessarily have anyone on YouTube. And you have to kind of, make sure to diversify, which is why you see, like how I mentioned, I have stuff on YouTube, and even though I stream on Twitch, because Twitch only holds things for a certain amount of time. And also sometimes people don't have the time to go through like an 8-hour video. So I do basically most of my own editing. I do give a couple videos to someone and I get them to edit for me. But getting like good clips, getting like highlights, things like that. It's all part of the process. I'm gonna take another drink. Does anyone have any questions at the moment while I do that? No questions. That's okay. Now I mentioned say so and unsay so earlier. Does who here knows what that means? Can I get any hands? A couple hands? Okay, cool. For those of you who don't know, so it's kind of it's used in terms of like whether or not someone is lewd or not. Generally that's what's considered. So say so is someone who is pure and innocent and doesn't mention like not safe for work related stuff or things like that. But for a lot of people, it seems to be that they're not really either way. It's kind of like, some people will talk about certain things, but not necessarily about other things. And some people will joke, well, that you're this person's very say so. They don't talk about anything ever, all the time, things like that. It's just kind of it's just part of the terminology that's kind of grown and it evolves as time goes on. Another one you might see around is an Oshi mark, which is also known as a fan mark. And for me, mine is a magic wand. It's the little emotes that you might see in VTuber handles. Generally, it's to kind of be like, if you would like to announce to the world that you are my fan, you can use this mark. You can put it in posts, and you can put it in like your handle, things like that. It's just kind of like a fun way for people to identify other fans. You'll see sometimes some people have like 10 different ones. For example, if you're a fan of Luxium, maybe you're a fan of all of them, so you have all of their marks in your handle. Who knows? It's just one of those things that people can do if they would like. In relation to, I mentioned like VSinger, VTuber, VStreamer, all that. You might also see sometimes things like EN VTuber. I'm an EN VTuber, so I'm an English VTuber. So you might see CHN VTuber if they're like a Chinese VTuber, so predominantly like Chinese speaking, or like they stream on Bilibili, that sort of thing. MY is another one, so Malaysia. And it's just kind of like one of those things you might see around especially like Twitter. I think you'll see a lot or on YouTube as well, where it's just kind of denoting what language you speak. Because, I mean, some people don't speak English, some people do, some people don't speak Chinese, some people do. So it's just helpful when you're not sure. And, I mean, there's also no rules. Like, I watch a bunch of Japanese VTubers, and my Japanese is not perfect, and I can't understand anything sometimes, because sometimes people talk really fast, but sometimes I talk really fast when I'm speaking. So yeah, it just kind of depends. Like one of the really good things with VTubing is a lot of, especially the big ones, do have people who clip their videos, and they will translate them, whether it be translated with English subs, whether or not it's putting Japanese. I've seen Japanese subs on Luxium clips before, because they do have a lot of Japanese fans. So it's really good. Like I find that the VTuber community is very good at sharing clips and artwork and things like that to make it like a really nice community. Obviously, like every community, you do have drama and things like that, but that's like with anything, right? Like there's always going to be drama. It's just always stuff that happens. In terms of VTubing's a lot like streaming in general. You can kind of really do anything. Like for me, I play a lot of games. Like I said, I occasionally draw. I would do a karaoke stream at some point in the future. My singing is not great. You don't come to that. It's fine. Just pretend it doesn't exist. Some people, one of the big popular ones I've seen is ASMR. ASMR is very popular, especially in the VTuber space. Just chatting. I've seen some people will actually stream them working on doing rigging for live 2D, so they'll be doing the live 2D for another another VTuber, and it's basically whatever you can make content out of. VR chat is another one that's quite popular, and I don't know if you know of Things VTubers Say. It's run by a VTuber who goes through like a lot of really big, interesting VTuber news, both indie and corporate. So like you could literally do anything you want. He actually records his things VTubers say. He actually records them on stream with chat, and then he uploads it to YouTube, right? So he's making content of the work that he's doing. You can literally do anything with VTubing within TOS, of course. Sorry, my mouth is very dry. Like I said, it's very early morning for me. So I'm not normally talking this much this late at night unless I'm finishing up a stream. So is VTubing hard? Yes. It's and like this is something that I'll probably go into more depth in that that in-depth panel. But like I was saying, I have to do most of my own editing. I have to make my own scheduling. I have to organize collabs. There's also like I have to research stuff depending on what my stream is about, depending on like learning about VTuber stuff itself, like what's happening in the community, what's going on, like all the different bits and pieces. You have to perform because you're supposed to be entertaining people. Generally, it's like the idea of what VTubing is. You're entertaining someone. You have to do other content creation, so recording TikToks or like posting on Twitch, Twitter, posting on Twitch, but that's usually a stream, and like just social media in general. Like any IT things related, you probably have to do that yourself. Anything like if you're wanting to try and find sponsorships or having to go through like contracts for some sort of sponsorship that's given to you, you basically start streaming or VTubing in general, and you end up with about 12 different jobs. I actually work full time outside of being a VTuber, so I basically have 2 full-time jobs. Do I sleep? Maybe. Maybe probably not as much as I would like, but it's very hard. You have to find those balances, and yeah, it's just a lot goes into it. It's hard, but I find it's really fun. I really enjoy it. I enjoy talking to people. It's actually been very good for me because I am very bad at finishing video games. But if someone is there with me, I basically kind of get guilted into finishing it because it's like, oh, there's someone watching me. Someone also is engaged in the story. Well, I don't want them to miss out on the rest of it. So it's kind of how I've ended up playing a lot of games and actually finishing the story. Because there's been like some games where I've started it, I've gotten to like 80%, and then I got distracted, and then I didn't play it again because it just happens sometimes. But it's been good. It's been good. It's a fun thing to do. And there's so much in the VTuber world that you can do. It's just you just have to find the right balance for yourself if you want to watch VTubers and if you want to become a VTuber. For example, I saw someone talking about, so one of the VTubers I follow is several of the VTubers I follow are actually teachers. And one of them caught one of their students watching Niji Sanji streams in their class, for example. So, because of time zones and things like that. But yeah, you got to be careful with the balance. But yeah, that was basically it. That's kind of I guess a bit of an overview of what a VTuber is, some of the stuff that we do, some of our pain and suffering. Was there any questions or any input that y'all would like to ask of me? Doesn't have to be about me specifically. It can just be about like VTubing, like things that I've seen, anything really.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so the question you kind of talked about with designing your mods, your character and such, and is there a contract when you're dealing with somebody to design something for you, or is it just verbal? How do you deal? Like you'd mentioned ghosting. How do you combat that?
That's actually a really good question. So, In terms of in like an indie space, I obviously can't speak to corporate VTubers because I am not one. But it's similar to what you would see for a commercial contract for commissioning, say, a logo for a company, or commissioning like a graphic design of some kind, like it be art or a painting for a company. A lot of, especially now, because there's been instances where that's happened, a lot of artists will actually have a terms of service. And within that terms of service, there is like an agreement. There's a contract around it that you have to basically say, yes, I agree. Some people actually have like a physical thing you have to sign off on. And for example of say like an illustration, right? So for my background, the background image you can see behind me, that was a commission. So I paid an artist and I said, hey, I would like to use this and I want to use it for streaming. And they go, okay, that'll cost an extra $200 because there is a fee associated with the image being used commercially versus just having like a pretty picture of my model, right? Like getting like some art done. Because there's the notion behind it that effectively I'm technically making money off of it. Therefore, the artist would potentially lose out on money as a result. So, especially for VTuber models, tends to be that there is an agreement that the commercial rights for it are handed over. It obviously there's a difference between artists, and it's something you kind of have to take into account when you're hiring someone to do the work for you. And for example, merchandise. So I have keychains. I paid an extra fee to have them commercial so that I can print them and do whatever I want with them afterwards. In terms of the ghosting, that's a little bit harder. Unfortunately, a lot of the time there's not a lot you can do about it except for do like there are some places where you can have like buyers beware. You can in some places you might be able to take legal action. It kind of depends on, I guess, the country that the people are involved in, things like that. It's usually when you're paying that kind of money, because it is usually a couple $1,000s, it's going to be someone who is well known in some way or form. So as a result, they're more likely to take a person like if the artist, for example, ghosts, they will take a personal hit to their reputation as a result. So they're less inclined to do that. Obviously, there's also the problem where, for example, say the person who has commissioned the model takes the model. It's been an issue lately where there's this thing what happens, which is chargeback. So they paid for it via PayPal. The person receives the model, and then they charge back saying, "Oh, I didn't receive this thing." So in that case, that person, the artist, then has to fight with PayPal to be like, "Look, I provided all the stuff that was requested as part of the payment, and can you please help me out?" And unfortunately, as a indie, that's much harder to do. Like if you're like a freelance artist or an indie VTuber, you're much more reliant on yourself, and you don't necessarily. It's not necessarily the easiest thing to handle because you never know whether someone might just run off and not do the thing that you are paying them for, or that you are doing like getting like you're sending artwork and things like that.
Okay. I had one more question also.
Yes.
So with your model, is it
Mhm.
copyrighted to where, like, say, what if you found somebody mirroring your image, or it's pretty darn similar? How do you
Well,
combat that? Or
it's it's interesting because I make the joke that I'm actually Hatsune Miku. It's like a running joke for me because I have twin tails, so clearly I'm also Hatsune Miku. And it depends because it's your design. So even without, say, putting a copyright on it at like getting it registered with a copyright mark, there is different types of like default ownership of the artwork, of the design, things like that. And something you will see, especially in the VTuber community, is there will be times where people will have similar models and people will say, "Oh, you're copying." But it's not necessarily the case. And it is kind of case by case. If, for example, my model had green hair and I had a short skirt that was pleated, and I had cybernetic type outfit, but my outfit was blue instead of like gray. Then obviously that's kind of a little bit more iffy because that's very close to actually like Miku's design, whereas mine is very very much my design and very different. So it's hard because you kind of have to make judgment calls, and I've seen a lot on Twitter. People have to say, "Hey, this is actually my design." We've had people where they've actually just had their full-on design stolen entirely, like their entire design was stolen, and someone's pretending to be that person. I've also seen instances where people have used copyright characters when they shouldn't be. So I saw someone using Saber from Fate Stay Night, Fate Zero, Fate Grand Order. They actually used that character, which is a licensed character, as their model, which is likely that person is not going to survive very long because they don't own that, right? They don't own the design. It's not like fan art where you can kind of draw art of a character and sell it for like a small amount of profit. There is the potential that you can make quite a lot of money off of VTubing. And uh, if you get enough attention and you are copying someone's design so heavily, then you'll get in trouble pretty quick. I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that. I think it was muted.
I just said thank you.
Oh, no worries. That being said, if I find someone next week that has purple twin tails and a magician's cape and has doves and my custom cards, I will find you. But no, generally speaking, people are pretty good with not copying designs. It's just the other problem is too, you can have where it just happens that someone had a similar idea to you, because it's very hard to be original nowadays. A really good example of that is you see in the movies where like you'll see like two different movies about like Bigfoot. There was like two movies about Bigfoot that came out around the same time in animation studios, and that wasn't the two studios copying each other. It just happened to be that they were very similar in premise at the time. So you don't want to sit there and just immediately go, "Oh, this person is stealing my design," without actually, I don't know, talking to them and trying to work things out. Any other questions? I've run out of water. Very sad.
How much time does it take for you to prepare for a show? For a stream?
Ooh. It depends on how awake I am. On weekends, I very specifically have my streams. For me, they start at about 2 p.m. On a Saturday, because that means I can sleep in. Which usually means it takes me about a couple hours to kind of get up and get ready, make sure my phone is in place, make sure my settings are all okay. If it's during the week when I'm already kind of awake, it's usually about 10 to 15 minutes. I'll do things like I'll do sound checks. I'll make sure that my game has been updated. I've had instances where like I went to go play Apex with a friend, and then they hadn't updated the Apex, and we were supposed to go live in 5 minutes. So I always try to make sure to have that sort of stuff updated in time. But I try to give myself about an hour to do like a kind of like a mini check, and then okay, I've got like 15 minutes. I have to make sure everything's ready to go. So, and I'll also probably sit there and because I usually sit there and have my starting screen for about 5 minutes before I actually start stream, and then usually during that time is probably when I've gone to like refill my water bottle, eat some food. Because I don't know about you, but I don't like eating food on stream because I personally don't like the sound of people chewing in my ears. So I try to avoid that for others. Yeah. It obviously depends too, because like if I'm doing, like I want to do a hot pot stream. I'm just talking about eating into the microphone, but I want to do a hot pot stream at some point where someone can sit down, eat hot pot with chat. And obviously that would take a lot more setup because I'd have to make sure that my hot pot is ready and that my my source of fire is ready, make sure all my food is all out, that sort of thing. Versus if I'm just sitting down to play a video game, it's a little bit different in the prep time. Anything else? Yes. Hello.
How easy? Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. How easy or difficult has it been, either like now or in the beginning, to set up collabs with other streamers?
Ooh, it's easier now. I think because I have a bit more of a presence online, and I have more contacts now. So when I first started, I was mostly only really doing collaborations with friends who were also VTubers or other streamers. And then as time has gone on, I've been able to build those connections with others. Me personally, I tend to collab with people that I've talked to before. I want myself and the other person to enjoy it, and I want our chats to enjoy it as well. So I tend to try and have that relationship with them prior, because it just makes it a little bit easier. And you don't always know if you're going to vibe with someone on stream, because they may not necessarily have the same vibe as you anyway. Like you might not be like you might not have the same energy, or if you may not know how to match between the two so that it's enjoyable. And you don't want to you want to have fun, right? The whole point of collaborating, one of the whole points of collaborating, is to have fun with friends or with another streamer, and like do silly things, or you know play some absurd game, or just hang out. And if you're not enjoying that, it kind of defeats the purpose. So it's definitely gotten a lot easier. I still hate asking people. I hate having to be like, hey, are you free in like a week or 4? Do you want to do a thing? And I feel really bad because I've had people go, hey, do you want to do this thing on this date? And I go on, I would love to, but that is like 12 p.m. on a Tuesday, and I will be at work. Unfortunately, being in Australia, it makes it very hard to do collaborations with people in the US unless it's the weekend. So because of the time zone and because of other people's availability. So that's always a challenge. And when I say it is very difficult to arrange an Among Us collab with like 10 different countries, but it works out somehow. Usually it means that someone's awake at 3 in the morning, but as long as if we're having fun, I guess that's the main thing.
One question dealing with fans or subscribers that have become over infatuated with you. How do you address that?
Ah, yes, the parasocial relationships question. Very good, very good. It's I unfortunately have a very good example of this. Just recently, I posted a video of myself and a friend on TikTok, and we were playing. It was a clip from a Apex stream, and I had someone comment on there going, "Oh, do you remember me?" And I said, unfortunately, I don't recognize your name because I didn't." And they're like, "Oh, I'm so and so, and I'm in your Twitch channel all the time." And what happened was, I was like, "Oh yes, I remember you. I hope you've been well." I hadn't seen them in a while because they hadn't been in my stream. And then they said, "Can we play Apex together sometime?" And I said, "I don't really play with people that I don't know because I don't know them." And in this particular instance, they got very upset and they complained about how, oh no, now they have to find another female Apex streamer. Why live, kind of thing. And I had to sit there and I very firmly said, look, I appreciate that you want to play games with me, but that makes me very uncomfortable. And other people have different approaches to this, but I basically said it makes me very uncomfortable. I'm here to have fun and entertain. Please be respectful of that. And unfortunately, this particular person didn't take that request on board, and I've actually had to ban them from my chat because they came in during a different stream. I was actually doing a collab with other members of my friendship group, and you just have to be. You have to tackle it differently depending on how the person is acting. They kept in on the Twitch chat, Zane has said they kept spamming the chat. They did. We were trying to play a horror game, and I wasn't really paying attention to the chat because I was reading, and I was trying to not get people killed in the game. So Zane and Ren, the others of MLC, had to time out and then ban this person. So it's parasocial relationships are hard, and some streamers do feed off of that kind of attitude. But for me personally, I'm quite strict with it. I tell people I'm not here to be your girlfriend. I am here to have fun. Respect my wishes, and people will get warnings. So I'm not mean to them. I try not to be mean to them, but I do try to be firm because I want to have a good time. I want chat to have a good time. If if you come into my chat and you kind of act that way and it's not the vibe of the chat, then I have no hesitation with being sorry, but goodbye. Because at the end of the day, that person, you may lose that person as a member of your community. But if they're not making you comfortable and they're not making chat comfortable, then it's not worth having them there. It's the whole attitude of keeping the community to be the way you want. And some people might not do it intentionally. You might just be like, hey, you need to chill out, and they'll understand it. And that's good when that happens, but sometimes you do have to unfortunately say, all right, that's okay. Thank you, but I don't want you around. Unfortunately, it just has to be that way sometimes. And smaller streamers especially, it's very important to do that at the beginning. Like, don't have in your community people that make you feel uncomfortable, because then you won't want to stream. Because if those people are coming around and make you feel uncomfortable, you're not going to want to be there, and you're not going to be able to, I guess, perform and entertain the way you would like to, because you might be stressed. They might say something that's upsetting. I'm very, very strict in terms of anything rude about the LGBT community. And also anyone who's being racist or saying like certain politics things, I don't want to talk about them in my chat, because sometimes I just don't want to deal with stuff happening in the real world for a little bit. And yeah, if you can't respect my wishes and you can't respect me, then regardless of whether or not you have been there for 1 day or 1 year, that's fine. If you can't follow the rules, that is your loss and not mine. Okay, I think we have time for one more question.
I have a question about. Let's see, how do I word this? The comfortability, basically all those hours streaming and stuff.
Mhm.
What's the best way to send it? Like, how do you keep yourself always like
How do I
up
keep myself
pace?
from
Like,
dying?
yes, to put it that way, yes.
Yeah. So I actually have recently bought a chair from Secret Lab. My community helped raise money for keeping me, like, it helps me with sitting down for long hours. And then in terms of like, okay, so for example, like I mentioned, it's like 2 a.m. for me right now, right? So keeping healthy by actually trying to sleep at a normal time it's a little bit iffy right now, because I'm doing the convention and this is obviously very different to my time zone. But for me, I just try to make sure that like I keep an eye on my health. Like, I'm always hydrating. I've just run out of water. I thought I had run out, but I had a little bit left. So hydrating, like, I have redeems in chat for people to make me hydrate. Some people have like stretch redeems. I will take breaks. So usually I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna go take a break. I'm gonna need to use the bathroom. And you don't really want to force yourself to be sitting for 10 hours straight, right? It's not great. And even if you're just like, I need to be RB, or if you stand up and stretch, like I'll tend to like, I'll sit there and like I'll roll my shoulders, or like I will like stretch my hands while things are loading. Things like that. You can do little things. You don't have to necessarily like go to like a BRB screen and then walk away for like 10 minutes. So it just depends. Mm-mm-mm. But yeah, I try to keep an eye on how long I'm streaming. One good thing about drinking lots of water is it does mean that you need to refill your water quite often. So that, and I have like a not a small water bottle. It's like 600, 800 milliliters. So I have to refill it every like 2 hours ish, depending. So that forces me to go get up, walk around, stretch, that sort of thing. And then obviously scheduling in a way that is not insane. So you don't want to be scheduling streams at 5 in the morning if you have work at 7, right? Not the most healthy thing. Or like streaming from midnight to 5 a.m. and then you have to start work at 7 a.m. That sort of thing. It does vary between different people. Like I know that, for example, Iron Mouse. So Iron Mouse has an illness, like a physical, like she has like some physical illness and things like that. So she tends to stream from her bed because that's her setup. And she'll have, I'm sure she has certain things where she gets up and helps with all that. I'm quite lucky. Like I said, my community helped me get a really nice chair, which means that my back isn't as sore from all the gaming and things like that. This chair actually lets me recline. So yesterday, when I was waiting for my next panel before I was waiting for the escape room, I actually like reclined my chair back and I folded my arms and I went to sleep for 30 minutes because I was tired. And it was like a good way to catch like a little bit of rest without going and going to bed and then potentially sleeping through my panels. Because that is a little bit of a fear because of the different time zones for me. But yeah, all right. I think we're at time. We're a little bit over technically, but that's fine. I hope you guys had fun. If you would like to, I will be around the convention floor later today. We actually have merch. So myself and Zane have some merch at the WF merchandise booth in the dealers area on the second floor. We also have a big TV. So we may not necessarily be there all the time, but you will be able to see us there, and you can actually talk to us one-on-one. So if you didn't feel comfortable coming up and asking questions, you're welcome to come over and talk to us then. I also have a little bird cage that I will be stuffed into shortly, and you might see me wandering around the convention. You can ask me stuff then too. But if you'd like to, do check out the merch, even if you just want to see the sort of stuff we have. I have some really cute bird plushies, and you can kind of chat with us and chill out and see the rest of the convention. But yeah, thank you everyone for coming. Oh, wait, hold on. I can't hear the clapping. I'm going to unmute the... No, keep clapping. I want to hear it. Yay! Thank you. Not for my own ego boost or anything. It was actually muted. I couldn't hear it. But yes, thank you so much. I hope you guys had fun. If you were here and you already knew a little bit about Vtubers, hopefully you learned something new. If not, then, well, I tried. Dear God, please go buy some balls. Yes, I have big fat bird plushies with little crowns, and they have little feet on them. They're very cute, so do check them out. But yes, I hope you guys had fun. I had fun touting, and yeah, I'll see you guys a little bit later. There's autographs if you want to come get something signed by myself or Zane, and then there's the escape room later tonight. I believe all the tickets are unfortunately sold out for that. Sold out. I believe all the tickets were handed out for that. So unfortunately, this time you might not be able to get it. But yeah, thank you everyone, and I'll see you guys later.